Meeting to order, December 3rd, 2024, regular session. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 I'll lead us in the prayer, and we'll ask the Carrier family to come up and lead us in the pledge. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to be with you and ask for your grace. Thank you for your grace and your glory, and ask you to continue to help us make the right decisions for our community, our schools, our students, and our staff. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you to the Carriers. Moving on, 1.5, recognition of students scoring perfect attendance on LEAP testing.
If I could ask the board to step into the horseshoe to recognize the students. Mrs. Seymour, on the end there by you are certificates
Right there.
to pass out. And then as they come around to meet the board, they will receive a yard sign.
Thank you.
I'll call each student up by the school and their name and the subject in which they scored a perfect score on the LEAP test in the spring of 2024. From Branch Elementary, we have Ella Fruge, who scored a perfect in math. Branch Elementary, Charlene Blanchard.
Will you take a group picture with them?
Yes, if you can kind of just hang, we'll get you back for a group picture.
We will take a group picture so y'all don't leave.
Charlene, and she scored a perfect in ELA. From Crowley Middle, we have Ainsley Cole, scored a perfect in ELA. From Egan Elementary, London Abear, a perfect in ELA.
Stop. Stop.
Oh, I'm gonna want the picture. The next 5 students are all from Iota Elementary. The first student is Eden Abear, a perfect in ELA. next student is Madison Lebrano, a perfect in ELA. Next is Maddox Matone, perfect in ELA. Next is Catherine Thomas, also a perfect in ELA. The last student from Iota Elementary is Jace Pickle, a perfect in science. Our next student is from Mermentau Elementary, Misha Kibido, a perfect in ELA. Our next student is from Midland High School, Hayden Saunier, a perfect in math. We would also like to recognize that as an 8th grader, she scored a 31 on her ACT. All right, our next student, Martin Petitjean Elementary, Finley Heinen, a perfect on math. Our next two students are from Richard Elementary. We have Riley Fontenot, a perfect in ELA. Next is Parker Carrier. He had a perfect score in math and science. The next two students are from Church Point High School, Macy Henry, a perfect on English 2. Also from Church Point High is Madison Moe, a perfect on Algebra 1. All right, the next two students are from Crowley High School. Aiden Doucette with a perfect on English 2.
Good job.
Mallory Lewis from Crowley High with a perfect in English 2. The next four students are from Rain High School. We have Garrett Frederick, a perfect on English 2. Anna Fuselier, a perfect on English 2. You can come. Braxton Leger, another perfect in English 2. And Allie Meir, another perfect on English 2. Our final three students are all from Iota High School. Camille Fontenot, perfect on English 2.
You got it? Turn that.
Jenna Fontenot, a perfect on English 2. Is Jenna here? And Wyatt Menard, a perfect on English 2. Yeah.
We don't need any picture.
Why not?
We can put them in front.
If we can get the students back up for a group picture.
Everybody get back up. All the cameras ready.
Scrunch up.
You get over there and get on your knees.
I might have to tighten up, kids, a little bit.
Rolling in the back, on the side. You come back.
so y'all can see the camera. You can't see the camera.
Probably needs to move up closer.
The phone at the top.
Right this way, please.
Anybody else? Okay. Oh, come on. Great job, students. Congratulations.
Yeah, see you. I'm gonna see. I took some good pictures of you. I'm gonna send you mom.
It's early in the week.
Yeah, I know.
That's nice. I love
Yeah.
it. We need to do more of that.
Signs are really.
I love the signs.
Congratulations.
How the parents think.
Oh, nice. Congratulations, sweetie.
The little things. That means a lot. That means more.
They appear to have their minds.
Sir, I said, are you gonna retake?
Item 2.1, approve minutes of November 12th, 2024 regular session meeting and the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee and Personnel, Insurance, and Curriculum Committee meetings dated November 19th, 2024.
If there's no changes, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 12th regular session.
I have a,
Budget and Finance Committee dated November 19th.
I have a motion by Mr. Higginbottom, second by Mr. Quibido. Any questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the board? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Item 2.2, approve Head Start's 2023-2024 annual report.
I move the approval of the Head Start 2023-2024 annual report.
I have a motion by Ms. James Etta, second by Mr. Richard. Any questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the board? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Item 2.3, consider approval of the audit financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Margaglio. I'm a partner with Calder Slavin and Company. We just finished your financial audit for June 30, 2024. When I got here this evening, we handed out the blue packet, which is your entire audit report. I've also included a presentation packet, a brief summary of what you'll have that we'll go over today. On page 1 of the report is a summary of the financial packet. It includes 4 key elements: our independent auditor's report on your financial statements, your report on internal controls, compliance, and other matters, your report on your federal awards, and the financial statements. The reports that we prepared describe y'all's responsibilities for the financial statements, internal controls, prevention, detection of fraud, and compliance with laws and regulations. And it also describes our responsibility to perform our audit in accordance with accepted auditing standards, to express an opinion on the financial statements, and to be here this evening to report anything that was significant or material to those financial reports. The audit results overall on the financial statements themselves, we issued an unmodified opinion. That's considered a clean opinion, the best opinion that you can get on the financials. Your grantors, bondholders, they'll review the report, see the unmodified opinion, and they'll know that they can rely on that as they're making decisions and on your compliances. We looked at your federal awards. Y'all received a significant amount of dollars from the federal government. Most of it passed through the state of Louisiana. We audited those programs in accordance with the federal rules and regulations, and we issued an unmodified report on compliance with the programs that we tested. So we looked at the ones that were required. We tested for the compliance coming down from Washington, D.C., and we noted no material non-compliances for any of the programs that we looked at. We also looked at your financial laws. Those are information from the Legislative Auditor's Office, things like open meeting law, bid law, and things of that nature. And we noted no material non-compliance in that arena either. We also look at overall operations, internal controls, policies, and procedures to see how things are flowing, to look for any deficiencies in that arena. And we noted no deficiencies to be reported this evening. So overall, clean reports across the board from us on everything that we issued our opinions on. On to page 2 of the presentation, we'll get into some of the dollars and cents, and this is the financial data that's contained in here. That's the financial data of the school system. This is your total revenues and expenses. This is all of your funds everywhere, all the grant funds, your general fund, everything all combined into one. 2024, you took in $153 million. Y'all spent $151 million. That is up significantly from prior years, and most of that is due to federal grant awards that you received, primarily due to COVID. Those grant funds are pretty much extinguished as of now. Most of it, December 31st is when it's done. So there'll be a little bit in this current fiscal year that are operating, but we expect to see a significant drop off in the revenues and expenses for the upcoming year. And that's just it, the money's gone. Y'all used it appropriately, y'all used it how it's supposed to, and the federal government is no longer funding those programs. If we look on page 3, this is your general fund revenues and expenses, including your awards and project accounts. This is where you have the most control over it. The majority of your special funds, the grant funds, the federal government or state tells you how to spend the money, and they only give it to you whenever you spend it in accordance with the rules. Your general funds, awards, and projects, y'all have the most control over. Y'all can decide how you budget that, how you spend it, where it goes. So that's why we carve out this information to talk about. So this year, 2024, y'all took in about $95 million. Y'all spent about $96 million. Again, that steep increase there is primarily due to one-time funding from the state of Louisiana, as well as some of that grant funding that does funnel into your general funds. So we'd expect some of that to drop off in the prior year. The other thing is with all the construction projects that y'all did, you've been saving up for some of these things and you use that funding this year, which is why the expenditures are higher than the revenues. Y'all have been higher in revenues for quite some time, building up those reserves, and now you're using them for various operating and construction expenses. If we look on page 4, this graphic describes your key revenue sources. Your sales tax, you took in about $16.5 million. Your property taxes, about $14.1 million. And MFP, by far your biggest source of funding, was about $59 million. And we have a 5-year historical for your information. On page 5, again, this is just your general fund that we're looking at here. This is where, as far as the total number that we talked about, where did y'all get it from? You can see this year you got about 62% of your total money from that MFP funding sources. Sales tax was 18%, ad valorem was another 15%. Those are your 3 biggest pots of money that you get and how you can spend that money in your general fund. Those numbers are relatively consistent year over year in both dollars and percentages. On the final page, page 6, this is looking at where your general fund spent that money. So of everything that you got in, approximately 76% of it was salaries and benefits. That's very common for governments, especially school boards, because you put so much into the teachers, the employees, cafeteria, all of those different agencies. 75% is where we would expect you to fall. All of the school boards that we audit, and we audit over 15 of them statewide, are north of 60% for expenditures on salaries and related benefits. The other pieces of the pie, and again, y'all are relatively consistent on these, include materials and supplies, capital outlay, and things of that nature. That's a very brief overview of the financial dollars and cents, primarily your general fund. Clean opinions on the financial report. If there are any questions, I can try to address those now.
I need a motion.
Make a motion.
I have a motion, consider the approval of the audit financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024 by Mr. Higginbottom.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Jones. Any questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good evening.
Appreciate you. Great job.
Good job, thank you.
Also would like to thank our accounting department for keeping some very thorough records and keeping us clean for our audits. Absolutely.
Tell everybody on your team, thank you, Justin. We appreciate them. Moving on to routine items. Item 3.1, review district performance scores. Good evening, Mr. Terrio.
Good evening, everybody. Merry Christmas to you. We're going to do some high-level information first, and then we'll go into a little bit of other data. We'll start by saying that our district performance score is an 80, which is a letter grade of a letter B. We're very proud of that. 10 of our schools showed growth in their overall school performance scores. We'd like to recognize those. That would be Armstrong Middle. Congratulations to them. They grew the most in the district, over 8-point growth. Really hard work paying off there. Central Rain Kindergarten, Church Point High School, Crowley Kindergarten, Egan Elementary, Iota Elementary, Iota Middle School, Morse Elementary, Martin Petitjean Elementary, and North Crowley Elementary. Really happy to see their hard work paying off. We did have 2 schools that scored over 100A on their SPS. That would be Egan and Evangeline Elementaries. They generally perform high, and their hard work is paying off as well. Of our schools, 88% of the schools rated an A, B, or C. Those would include Egan Elementary, Esterwood Elementary, Evangeline Elementary, Mermentau, Midland High, and Iota. 9 schools with a B. We have Branch Elementary, Church Point High, Iota Elementary, Iota Middle, Muir Elementary, Morse Elementary, Rain High, Richard Elementary, and South Rain Elementary. 8 of our schools have a letter grade of C, which would be Central Rain Kindergarten, Church Point Elementary, Church Point Middle, Crowley High, Crowley K, Martin Petitjean Elementary, North Crowley, and South Crowley. Really honored that 8 of our schools were given a designation based on their exceptional growth on the end-of-year assessments. These are called top gains honorees. Those schools are Egan Elementary, Evangeline Elementary, Iota Elementary, Iota Middle, Mermentau Elementary, Muir Elementary, Morse, and South Rain Elementaries. Second designation from our state is schools that showed excellence in educating our special education students. We have some opportunity honorees, disabilities, our English learners are economically disadvantaged. We have 3 schools that have that recognition. That would be Egan Elementary, Evangeline Elementary, and Mermentau Elementary. Very proud of the work they've done. In front of you, we did provide you with some reports from LDOE. Some of them were requested. Some of them are just public documents that we wanted to share, hard copy for you. Very proud of the work our folks are doing. They're working hard, and that is shown in some of that data that I'd like to talk about a little bit. As you go through the assessment indexes, we understand that some of those are not as high as we would like, and some of the schools have traditionally scored low on those assessment indexes. What I'd like to highlight, though, is the growth that our schools are attaining from the students in which they are instructing. All of our schools scored A, Bs, or Cs in growing our students. While we know we have an issue with some of our assessments, the schools are doing their job to make the students grow in those areas where we know we have challenges, where we know we are faced with some hurdles that we continue each and every day to try to overcome and provide the supports we can. But when you look at that growth data, and majority of our schools are scoring an A and a B, only 2 schools scored Cs in their growth. The kids are moving on those campuses because of the hard work of the teachers, the hard work of the students themselves, and the hard work of our administrators supporting those teachers on their campuses. Really wanted to highlight that growth because at the end of the day, we want those assessment indexes up. However, we are moving our kids in the right direction. Any questions from y'all?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
On the 2024 ACT index, is this the first year that all students have to take the ACT and that's the grade, the letter grade for that high school?
No, for several years, all students have taken the ACT. We're actually moving where only students that are on the top college career path are actually going to have to take it. So for many years, we've been having all students take the ACT.
So these,
It's effect in 2025,
25, yes,
25, 26.
so these grades here are,
everybody.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have. Anybody else?
Yes. I'm kind of like taking a page out of Glenn's book about research. This is kind of my area. And I'll pull up newspapers from the different parishes. First of all, on the letter grades. Now, this letter grade was pertaining to overall everything on that campus,
The school-
not just the test score.
Correct.
Correct,
If you
correct.
look
Their
on this
cumulative score.
chart,
Yeah,
if you look at this chart,
That-
it's made up of all of the columns.
Yes, and that's what I'm looking at.
that's their overall, score. Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at the 24 K-8 high school K-8 and high school assessment. Now, this was the LEAP test itself,
Correct.
right? And it's disturbing when you look how many Fs and Ds are on this column. And that's always bothered me about, this has been going on for years. We've had the same schools on top, the same schools on the bottom. And we have to make an effort to try to get some of these schools, because that's a lot of Ds and Fs in that column. And that LEAP test is your education. It's gonna be the main thing of getting you to be a productive citizen.
It is, but I would also like to point, if you look to the very next column, which is the 2024 K-8 and high school progress index. If you'll notice there, you will see the volume of A's and B's with 2 schools with C's on progress. That's indicative of the efforts that our teachers are doing in those classrooms every day. Because while it might not reflect on that child's actual assessment, that work is showing in that progress each one of those students is making. So that is where that's where when they take that assessment paired up with the progress of each individual student, those students that are growing may not be growing at the rate that assessment index is rising fast enough, but the students are growing. That's where our schools are doing that diligent work that we've been talking about, looking at where their instructional weaknesses are within each campus or on each campus, targeting that specific skill or strategy that's gonna make that individual student grow. So they're taking each student's individual test score and seeing how far do we need to grow and push this student academically for them to be able to get that progress index up, which is what helps their overall SPS score. So nobody likes to see the number of Fs, but I will say our teachers are working, our students are giving their very best, and that is reflective in that progress index.
And it certainly doesn't fall on deaf ears. We are aware of those assessment indexes, and we're working every day trying to bring them up. We've seen the trends.
We look at the data.
But if you look at, and I'm very happy to hear all that, but if you look at the progress and the school has an A on the progress, but an F, that shouldn't it be closer?
It's maybe, but I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into what happens on that one
But the A
day.
came from trying to prepare them for this test.
So from the prior year. So what they do is they look at where that student scored the prior year, and they put it into a mechanism that takes into account their socioeconomics, if they have a SPED label, all the things, and they project a score on where that kid, based on the prior year's performance, where should a teacher get that kid? So what those numbers are telling us is A, Bs, and Cs, our teachers are working hard and are getting those kids where the state projects they should be. If you saw FF, we'd have a serious problem. We'd have a serious problem. But what we see, we understand. We've got some students that are not performing at the B and C level, but what we do see is we are moving those kids in the right direction. They're meeting those targets that the states say they need to take to hit, and we're going to keep hitting that and keep pushing those kids. It's not going to be an overnight fix, but hopefully in 3 or 4 years, they're to a point where that F won't be an F anymore. It's going to be reflective of their growth. So it's discouraging to see those Fs.
What you're saying is next year, we shouldn't see all those Fs if this progress continues, right?
We hope to see them go up. Now, the accountability system is changing, as is very common. So
The A and Bs and stuff, that was on the 10-point
yes,
grading scale, huh?
Yes.
And that helped,
yeah,
because there's some 50s that are Ds,
yeah.
and that
There
helped.
was some things coming with that. But yes, hopefully the growth we're seeing, the targets, we're keep meeting them. Hopefully those letter grades go up. Like I said, not an overnight, not a one-year fix. It's keep working on it to get them where we need them to be.
And I will say this, I'm proud to see the progress index where it was when you account for the fact that we made a transition to a 4-day work week, not making any excuses, but I think it reflects the work of our teachers and our students to have the A's and B's that we do in progress, because we lost 21 instructional days by making that transition. So our kids are still growing. Our teachers are still pushing. Our kids are working as hard as they can. And I think that considering we made that transition, even though we do have those F assessment indexes to work on, you can see that we're moving at least and maintaining. And we can always shoot for better, and we are. And we're refocusing some things we've done to support. So hopefully we'll see better scores next year.
How did we lose 21 instructional days when we put the minutes into the 4 days week?
Well, it's the seat, the
But
minutes.
we really didn't
equal-
lose any days.
Technically,
You know, it's days,
it's
but
the
not minutes.
days in the calendar, but the minutes work.
Well, if we're teaching to the end of the day,
Yeah.
we're equal on that. How did we do regional wise?
Say again?
How did we do with the
Regionally?
regional?
Gotcha. Was it fourth in the region?
Fifth.
Fifth in the region. Fifth out of seventh, I believe.
How many?
I think it's 7. 5 out of 8, excuse me.
Does that include Jeb Davis?
Yes, sir. Is it not?
Region, no.
You did that
It's
way?
Region
How
five.
did we do with Jeb Davis?
I don't know if I know their score.
It's
I
on the
had
sheet
it,
on
but
my
I don't have
desk.
it with,
I
but,
have it, it's on my desk.
yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't have that
We
one.
need to be better in fifth, though. I can understand a couple being above us. Third should be the lowest we should be. I'd like to see that. a lot
Me
better.
too. Me too.
well,
Fifth out of 7 is not
and
good at
there's.
all. Who are the two below us?
It's 8.
You know
It's
that?
Saint- it's
Saint Landry and Saint,
And then Saint
Evangeline?
Evangeline, Saint
Evangeline,
Saint Martin,
Saint
isn't it?
Landry.
Saint Martin. So there's
We
8
should be beating
districts.
those people.
Yeah,
We should be beating the other ones too.
we're getting there.
We need to work it harder.
Yep.
now on the state performance score, 80.2, 80 is below the state average, and that's kind of disappointing. I wish we were at least at the state average,
Same here.
and we should be. There's no excuse for us not being there. And the average is very, very deceiving. You take the batting average of a baseball player, it's pretty accurate. But like a good friend of mine says, you know, if you put your hand on the stove and the other one in the freezer, your body temperature, maybe you may have an average body temperature, but you are having a lot of problems. And that's why I look at averages, and I'm not really impressed with that. We got to look at individual, because when you have the top, like we have the top score, and like we have the score, that we should be above the state. And
Can't disagree with you. We work hard every day. We're trying to make a difference in our schools. Completely agree with all of you. We're going to keep on punching at it.
Now, the state considers to have met learning expectations is if the student scores mastery or above.
Correct.
That's what the state considers. In reading, we have a -2 percentage. And I think we were one of 2 or 3 in the whole region with the minuses. And no one else has a -2. That's disturbing. Then we go to math, we have a -3. And there's no one else in this region that has a -3. And getting back what Mr. Jones said earlier, I just don't see us having that or being on the bottom in this Acadiana area. Another article, students appear to be making progress in English in Iberia, St. Landry, Vermilion, Lafayette, St. Martin. By contrast, Acadia, Evangeline, and St. Mary parishes are still below. They're talking about the before pre-pandemic 2019. All these schools at the top have maintained and they're reaching their target. We still not have reached our target for the pre-pandemic. And those things, I mean, I have some more stuff, but I'm not gonna I'd like to meet with y'all too one day and go over some of the other stuff that I have. But we really need to roll up our sleeves and attack these things and go. And one superintendent said, don't ever underestimate the good morning or the hellos. And I would like for us to take a look at or advocate our schools. You know, if a kid has a horrible time at home and he gets to school, and when he walks off that bus, he does something that a teacher jumps all over him and say, go sit in my classroom. That student's not going to have a good day. But if you say, hello, good morning, I'm glad you're here, we're going to have a good day. And you know, every time we hear a speaker, they talk about changing the culture. That's part of changing the culture. Make them want to be at school rather than at home. And school is not for punishment. School is to have fun, make friends, and learn along the way too. And I wish we could get our principals to concentrate on that. You know, to be out there when the bus arrives in the morning, to be there. I don't know if Mr. Young is in here or not, but you know, I used to take my grandkids up at Egan, and he was always out there with a group of teachers and waving everybody. And I think that goes a long way in doing that, because we owe our children to give them everything we got. And I think we have a lot of work to do.
I agree.
I think it's got to be targeted work.
I agree. I've met with a team today, and that was pretty much the motto: support with compassion, and it needs to be targeted. But I would be remiss if I stood up here and did not take up for the 500+ teachers and our administrators who are really, really working hard to address the issues we're discussing today. We're facing things because of the pandemic that no one has faced in the past. It's not an excuse, but it is reality. They are working incredibly hard, and I've had the honor to work in some of our most at-risk schools who are, in spite of everything, beginning to thrive at least moving their schools forward. And they're doing exactly what you're saying. They're meeting kids. They're meeting their needs, social needs, physical needs, academic needs. I'm proud of what our Acadia Parish people are doing. And I hope that y'all walk away today knowing that our folks are working hard. These scores do not reflect what I see in our classrooms. It absolutely does not.
I like hearing that.
And I went Armstrong Middle. I'll just give them some props again. I was there Thursday before Thanksgiving, where a lot of schools may have been having parties. They were holding an instructional leadership team led by teachers on their campus, having academic conversation with one another, going back to provide professional development to their own colleague teachers on their campus. There are really great things going on in our schools. Our teachers are really working hard to reach. They see these scores, and it hits them in the stomach too. They work hours tirelessly, and to see some of those scores, it's not a reflection of their dedication. So I just want, before I move on, I really am proud of the work they do. I'm proud of our administrators. I'm proud of our teachers, and I'm proud of our district staff. As y'all know, this is a new role for me, trying to wrangle the beast that Ms. Tall had, but there's a lot of dedicated people today in our district and doing exactly what you said. And I don't expect anything less. We are to be in the schools. We are to be visible. We are to be providing compassionate support.
And going back to targeted areas, you know, you have to take apart these scores, see where they're struggling in math, because there's so many different areas in math.
Correct.
And find out
Yep.
where they're struggling and target that.
Yep.
Because all of you has heard of the old saying, you know, it's one thing to work hard, it's another thing to work smart.
Yep.
And I think if we're going to improve, and we need to work smart, but the board has to be accountable, the superintendent, yourself, everybody has to be accountable for student performance, because they relying on this, whether they know it or not, to get out of school with being productive citizens.
All of it. Mhm.
And I appreciate everything. I like what I'm hearing. I appreciate you
If you
getting
haven't
out
had the
there.
opportunity to visit,
And
some
I
of our
hope they're in the
campuses are doing-
schools. I hope they're
they're-
in the schools, in the classrooms, and observing and giving positive feedback and all that stuff. So,
trying hard. That's the kids come first every day.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for y'all's
Greg.
time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for you and your staff, what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Padron.
Okay, moving on. Item 3.2, consider appeal from student expulsion. Mr. Geisy.
Mr. President, before we get to that item, I just want to tell you that I go to a lot of school board meetings, particularly this time of the year. The conversation that you just had with Greg about test scores is not unusual. And it's a tricky thing, because if you start trying to explain things, then people think you're trying to make an excuse. But I can tell you that the changes in the test scores and the grading matter is a moving target, and everyone is facing the same thing. And I've got several clients that would be pleased with the progress that you've made. Anyway, that's not on topic. I do not believe the parents are here. Ms. Tall, have you seen the parents? And I've talked with Mr. Duracell, and they're not. This is a situation that we don't encounter that frequently. I know that in a court, if someone asks for an appeal and asks for it timely but doesn't show up, the court will usually go ahead and issue an opinion. So out of an abundance of precaution, I'd recommend, since you have already received the packet, you've received the transcript, you have all the available information, I think that to protect the board's interest, since an appeal has been requested, that the board entertain a motion to either reverse, to affirm, or to modify the expulsion of this student. We're not going to get into the details or use names for confidentiality purposes, but I do believe that a motion to affirm, to reverse, or to modify would be in the best interest of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Geis.
I'll make a motion that we go.
I have a motion by Mr. Higginbotham to affirm, second by Mr. Seymour. Any questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Higginbotham?
I have a question.
Quibido, I'm sorry.
If we go ahead and accept this expulsion, Is there any pathway for that child to come back in early?
Yes, sir. The statute is 17:416, and it says that at any time during the period of the expulsion, that the superintendent has the right to re-enroll the student in their regular school on a provisional re-enrollment contract. So that's always an option for the superintendent. It's typically seen in instances where the child reports to the alternative school, gets their lessons up, doesn't get in trouble, does everything that's asked of them, and particularly if they don't have a prior disciplinary record, then the superintendent does have that latitude to make that contract offer. Yes, sir.
So conceivably, that student could be back in August.
It could be back whenever the superintendent deems it to be appropriate. Yes, sir.
Terrific.
It'll be back in April. She can make that.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
So the motion is to defer?
Affirm. Affirm. All in favor signify by saying aye. Do we need a roll call vote on that?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Geis.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Item 4.1, receive assignments and changes of personnel. You have that in your packet. 4.2, this is consent items, receive sales tax report. Mr. Carey, we looking better, worse? I didn't even look. Hopefully Christmas will pick us back up.
Go to work in December, boy.
Santa Claus uniform.
Yeah, stand in the street with a sign.
So before we adjourn, I'd like to say on behalf of the board, to all our staff, our students, and everybody in the system, Merry Christmas to you and your families. I appreciate all our staff, the hard work you put in, day out, all our teachers, from janitors to bus drivers to everybody we have. Thank you for what you do for Acadia Parish School Board System. I hope everyone has a prosperous and very blessed Christmas. And if there's anything we can do to help you, your system, your schools, or anything out from this board, please reach out to us. We don't mind helping you. But Merry Christmas to you all. 5.1, I have a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Mr. Higginbotham. Second by Mr. Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys. Thank y'all for attending.
Don't forget the superintendent's election for the wards. The wards.
Oh, don't forget we have a ward elections.